The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
CBR Street Gang, this is all by standing by, over.
Hello. All right. Before we get started here, I want to let everyone know on X, if you are watching this on X, the stream quality on X sucks. So I would suggest that you head on over to YouTube, and you're going to get a much better experience, much higher quality stream there. I'm pushing the same bitrate to X, but they do not stream out very high quality. They compress the shit out of the video, basically. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And it's not a good experience for watching something like this for many, unless you're just going to listen, which is fine. If you want to see the charts, you want to see the specific levels, and you want to see the detail of what's going on here, I do suggest you move on over to the YouTube live stream. It is posted on my timeline on X, and that is at CryptoLandy. You can also just follow the profile page link to my YouTube channel, and you'll see that I'm running a live stream there as well. If you are on Twitch, I see a lot of people starting to join on Twitch. I have no idea why. I'm not a gaming channel, but if you like watching charts and you want to learn more about Bitcoin, I don't watch the chat over there, so I do suggest again that you head on over to the YouTube stream, which is also linked to my profile there on Twitch. So, all right, we're gonna roll right into this. Helps if I actually don't just have the starting screen up. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is April 17th, 2024, 3 days until the halving, apparently. Although I think for me, it's going to be on 419, and for many of my international friends, it is going to be on 420 for you. So you get the 420 memes, and I likely do not. As it seems right now, we'll see if all of the minting and quote unquote spam on the Bitcoin network can slow down some of these blocks. And maybe I can get in on some of the 420 fun as well. All right. So if I have any regulars in the chat, I do want you to make yourselves known. I see a few chatting in various chats. If you can all consolidate into the YouTube chat, that would be helpful for me. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin on the daily here to start. We can see that Bitcoin has gotten the move down that we talked about in just about every single video that I've been posting since Bitcoin's been in this range up here. And everyone's ratcheting up their downside targets and where to look, and everybody's talking bounce and it's gonna moon, and Bitcoin's just in a range. So what you do have to understand is this range is pretty well defined now. We have 3 taps into this big monthly closing zone. So the conditions were on the last video that I posted, which I believe was the 15th, where Bitcoin had met the criteria to break down and test into this October of 2021 monthly zone down to that March of 2021 monthly closing area. This, by the way, this March of 2021 monthly close is also a quarterly close high. So that's the all-time high on the quarterly and the monthly from last cycle. And then, of course, we have the first major high on the monthly that was put in there in October of 2021. So that's where that high went up and tagged $65,000, which is this big green zone with the yellow box in the middle there. We've got 65 to 69. So the first all-time high area or first major swing high in 2021 at 65 to 69. Bitcoin's now playing in between these two big liquid zones. So Bitcoin met the criteria, breaking down from $65,000, and more importantly, dropped that 64,500. And where we were looking for expansion of the Bollinger Bands right into support. And that's now what we are seeing. So what we have to evaluate is, are we looking for continuation to the downside? And or could we possibly see a bounce? Where could things bounce to, and where do things start to turn bullish again? Well, right now, in terms of the daily structure, there's not much it bounces from here. I mean, Bitcoin could bounce hard and not really do anything. From a swing basis, if it were to get back above this swing high here, which is from the Monday candle, which is at that basically $67,000, and especially close above this candle up here, you start looking, towards that basis and higher to $69,000. But of course, Bitcoin is trading down in this October area, so between 61,350 and 58.8. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it run 58.8. Wicks through, could hit the meme target pullback. The Bitcoin has been doing about 20 to 22%. I will show that now. I've been talking about it a while, and for some of the people that are new here, they haven't seen, or they may not even know about that. So Bitcoin, since putting in the lows, let's go ahead and get rid of the support and resistance, and we'll just talk about the major pullbacks that Bitcoin has had since putting in the macro low here. And just about every swing to swing pullback has come in about 20 to 22%. That doesn't mean that this one is going to be 20 to 22%. It could fall short. It could go further. But I do want to point out that this is the meme. This is what you're going to see everywhere. Some people are buying into it hard. I think that it's foolish to buy into anything that is not confirmed, and you shouldn't count on it or trade based off of it. So you should evaluate your trades live. So we've got about 22% there on the first big pullback after putting in the macro low. Got another 20% here. I probably shouldn't extend these left or right. That would be my right, not my left. Yep. So let's go ahead and do this. Extend. All right, so we've got another big pullback. So we had this 31.8 area really acting as overhead resistance. But the main reason that 31.8 was overhead resistance after Bitcoin put in a macro low and a trend change on the weekly was a monthly close open, and that just happened to be the monthly close open right here. That was the breakdown that led to the breakdown. So the candle that closed in May of 2022 opened in June. That was the open, or the close open, that took out the lows on the monthly and acted as a major area of resistance, because that was basically the failure point for sentiment. And from a technical point of view, that close open was one of the biggest ones that we were aware of at the time and looking for. And of course, we spiked it twice and held support to the downside, which was essentially these two highs right here. I mean, it didn't quite hit them perfectly, but it doesn't need to. We've got another big pullback here. This was right around when ETFs were coming into play, and we had about a 21%. So where would a 20% put us? Essentially right around our downside support at the monthly, 58 to 58.8. So is fair game. Like 58K to 58.8 is completely fair game. Now 22% is going to put us somewhere around, like 57.5, 56, depending on your exchange. That would be, a relatively decent area to be looking, an area of interest for sure. But what you need to be aware of is if Bitcoin starts to break below and close below that quarterly, it's problems. Especially on a daily and higher term time frame. So if we see closures below 58.8, that's where I'm looking lower. And I'm bringing up the weekly for a reason here, because if Bitcoin were to start breaching down on the daily below this monthly quarterly downside area, specifically at around 58.8, and start closing candles below there, and specifically start seeing this area as resistance between 58.8 and 61,350, then I would eventually be looking for a move somewhere down around $53,000, which is right around the weekly basis band now. And below there, we could also target around the December of 2021 and August of 2021 weekly swing high closes, which we saw the swing high, the higher high there at 53,000. This was primary resistance upon approaching it back in February of this year. So that 2021 area was very relevant at $53,000, especially on the daily. But it held the weekly support there on close opens and on the weekly. So that was just prior to putting in a brand new all-time high. So this would be the primary zone of interest to the downside, somewhere between 50,000, give it some room, to like 53K. Again, that's only if Bitcoin starts to close the daily and higher term timeframes below 58.8 would I start looking down there. It could still hit the meme pullback, and as long as it's coming right back into range here, perfect, right? Like throw a wick down there, great. Wreck all the people that got their, wreck all the longs that are going to long off of this quarterly level and monthly level, wick right through them, hit their stops, and then take off without them. Maybe reject as they start longing into resistance up here at 65K and then go. Now, I honestly am looking for a lower term time frame bounce right now. We may have already seen that off of around 59, 650 or so here on spot. Lower on some exchanges. I know that the exchanges that I am trading on, some of them went lower, some of them did not. So, but spot is carrying a bit of a premium right now. And from the daily perspective, we do see that Bitcoin is expanding right into support. And, it's not critical yet. It's 78 over 65 here. So we see that it's confirmed expansion to the downside. Of course, again, this is right into support. So the next thing that you do need to look at is, does Bitcoin lose this wick low on a close over here? And this is at 60,770. So basically 60,800. If it loses this wick low on a close, or its most recent wick low into this area at 60,800, then I would be looking for a move down to, if it didn't already do this in lower term timeframes, a move back down to retest its current low around that 59.5 to the actual wick low over here at 59,200 and that 58.8 region. Now, if it begins to swing down below there, that's when you can look for the possibility of maybe $56,000 to $58,000 is going to be where a wick lands. If it starts closing below 58.8, though, you better watch out. I wouldn't be so confident in that trade. So you might want to reevaluate that if you are very confident in that particular meme. And you know who I'm talking to. And talking to you specifically. And I'm going to say you. So be very careful, because you're going to get a lot of people that are going to fake out to the upside too, and maybe short you on the other side and push price right down to their zone at 50 to 53. Now, that's not a given. If it bounces hard, wicks down in, comes right back into the zone, recovers 58.8, closes in there, wicks through, takes off to the upside, starts wicking back up here and testing the 61,350 and then eventually getting above it. Great. Green light, great trade. Can probably bring it back up and start marking up. Now, from here, if Bitcoin's price is going to rise, it does need to get back above 61,350 and the daily lower second standard deviation, which is around $62,000. If it can trade above there, I would still look for major overhead resistance at this April of 2021 monthly swing high, which is coming in at $65,000. Now, this is going to come down a little bit after close today. I would expect it to be somewhere around 64 to 64 and a half. It may even be slightly under there here where this close open from yesterday's candle into today's candle came in around 63.8. Very possible that we could see that, because this is getting aggressive expansion now. Bitcoin is trading below that lower second standard deviation. So lower term time frame bounce has kind of initiated, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get sold into and test lower before trying for a real bounce. I would, generally, unless there's some kind of a leverage washout, I would generally be looking for this to act as a bouncy area regardless if Bitcoin is going to continue down further. So just be aware, if it does start regaining around $62,000, just to make things very simple, then look for a test somewhere around its current close open structure, $63,800 to $64,000, where the lower first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands is currently above there around 65, likely to be around 64, maybe under. If Bitcoin does regain $64,000. That's where things get very interesting. 64 to 65, I should say. Sorry. That's where things get really interesting. Then you can keep an eye on this swing high at around $67,000. If we start to see closures above there, very good sign that we're going to be testing somewhere around wherever the basis band currently is, or slightly higher where it is right now, I should say, at 67.5 to 6. Above there, look up to $69,000. If Bitcoin can take that out and recover above there, we're looking roughly around this high side consolidation, these past two failed consolidations, or consolidations to downside moves, if you like, into support once, into the support twice, and then down to the next support. So what I'd be looking for is some kind of a test around that 70,000 to 70,200 on the closes, and that $73,000, of course, above there. If Bitcoin starts to close above there, it does need to get above the all-time high up here and the upper second standard deviation to get expansion to the upside and start looking for those deeper targets that I've spoke about quite a few times. Now we do have a different type of a swing structure going on here. So if you were gonna take the actual swing structure and let's say it's possible that this becomes the low, I'm not going to suggest that it is the low, but it's possible that it could become the low. Then we're looking somewhere around $75,000 to $78,000 above the current all-time high at $73,835. Then I'd be looking $75,000 to $78,000, somewhere around this upper second standard deviation on the weekly. Of course, I do want you to note that Bitcoin is currently trading below the lower first standard deviation on the weekly here, which is that $65,000 area. If it closes the weekly below here, it's very likely going to test down further, maybe for the meme pullback if it hasn't already done it at around 56 to 58. If it's going to go for the full Monty, though, it's going to go for the actual supports down there at $53,000 to $50,000. If it does recover above 65, of course, by the end of the week, that would look really good, especially if it could start putting in any kind of a move back to the north side here, get it back above $69,000, then it has the possibility to try and put in a higher low on a close, and that would look pretty good. I mean, this technically was a higher low over here, but it was in the midst of putting in a top and a swing. Above the all-time high, though, looking to that upper second standard deviation, somewhere around 75 to the 1272 up here at 78. If Bitcoin does happen to take off above there, then we can look at the 1272 to the 1414 as kind of a zone between $78,000 and $80,000 there at the 1414. And of course, above there, I would be targeting the 1618 here, which is now coming in, with the current move, if this were to hold as the low, which I'm not totally confident in. Again, still has to meet criteria for further downside, but I'm not totally confident on where that swing's going to land until we actually see this area either hold up and or break down. But as it stands right now, the 1618 is coming in at around 84,300. So basically anywhere above, I would say Bitcoin gets above its all-time high, we're looking 75 to 78. Then 78 to 80. If it gets above 80 and starts closing any meaningful time frames above there, like a daily and higher term time frame, then I would be looking up to the 1618 here, about mid to low $80,000 region. And then above there, where this current upper third standard deviation is, coming in around this 1786 and 1888, which is basically, mid to upper 80s into the $90,000 level there at the 1888. Very logical targets to the upside, nothing too crazy. And could Bitcoin go for more over time? Absolutely. But right now, Bitcoin is in the process of testing its downside supports. Again, I want to caution everyone until you actually see it break down below 58.8 and start to get closures down there, then I'm not looking for $53,000. Until I start seeing price action dip below 58.8 here, daily lower third, would I be looking or entertaining a possible swing of this structure, this wick low over here, swing of this structure into some, minor supports? There is fibs that you can pull that are going to show you kind of roughly around that meme pullback number, but it's in the eye of the beholder. It would be nice to see it fake out down here and then, do the meme pullback and then come right back in. And then it's just a little bit too easy mode. Although I said this every time, and it hit those targets and it kept doing the 20 to 22% as we were evaluating it prior. I mean, but it's at a major support right now. If it starts cracking below that March of 2021 and quarterly close there at 58.8, though, that's where, you know, I think those hopes probably get dashed. But, you know, we could also see something like Bitcoin closes directly underneath and holds on to 58,000 for dear life and then comes right back into range and marches on. That would not be out of the question. I mean, Bitcoin closed below this weekly support on the daily, 2 closures, and then back in. We could see something like that where it hits the meme 20 to 22%, comes back in, and then heads up. There's nothing saying that that can't happen. Just I'd be aware of higher term timeframes closing below this area, higher term timeframes than the daily. That really would start painting the picture that Bitcoin would want to come back and test this daily consolidation. Of course, weekly consolidated here in 2024, right around that $53,000 to $50,000. And of course, that's also, you know, another thing if you want to look into the non-technical side of things is like everyone would expect that. So why would Bitcoin go to do it? And it's not like some market makers are out there and they're like, they're not going to get their 53. It's just everybody wants to front run it. So you end up with those higher prices and maybe that leads to the meme pullback, right? You never know. And again, to the upside, above $62,000, be aware of around 64 to 65 again. Above 65, keep a very close eye on $67,000. Above there, we're basically looking at a range between 67 and 69. Back above 69, it's back to the highs. It's still a range. I mean, this is not really anything too crazy. I know a lot of people are getting like really scared, and I guess I understand it. When you see expansion on the 2-day like this, you know, that can be frightening for some people. Like, oh my God, it's all over the bull market. What happened to our bull market? I mean, triple top cruise back. And, you know, it's not like they're absolutely 100% wrong about what they're seeing, but it's conditional. We would have to see, I mean, I could totally see expansion down into 53K. So, but this is expansion right into support. And if it's going to pick itself back up off the floor here, you would likely see a bounce in this area, recover above, this is the 2-day time frame, recover above, in this case, the lower second, which is at $62,000 even, recover above 65, and then test somewhere around, guess what, $67,000 to $68,000. So basically that right in the middle of that $67,000 to $69,000 area that I was just speaking of. Above there, guess what, the range high consolidation area around that upper first at, you know, somewhere between 70 to 72. Above there, we're looking back to 73 and then the all-time high by the upper second standard deviation. And there's no guarantee, by the way, that it's going to not just swing that area, make a new all-time high, and then just consolidate for a while. I wouldn't be surprised, to be quite honest. I know many people are looking for something like that coming into and around the halving anyway. I do want to note that the 3-day is going to be closing with today's price action, or daily close if you like. The lower first standard deviation is right here at the monthly. So it's right at around $58,800 to $59,000. And hey, guess what? It's going to change, but the perfect lining up of the volatility level with a support level, that lower second standard deviation on the 3-day coming in right there at $53,000. And yes, I'm saying right there, and it's like $100 under it or something like that. It's basically $53,000. And actually, now that I look at it, this is $53,000, this swing high, but it's actually like 52,950 or something. So basically 53K. Looks good. Hey, you might want to ignore this, but the lower third at extremes is down here at the monthly at $47,000, but we didn't see that. We'll never see those prices again, right? That actually would be something that is technically possible, but it's not my first take. That would be something that I've talked about a lot. That would be Bitcoin losing the monthly upper second standard deviation, losing the supports there. Of course, local support at 58.8, losing 50K, and then coming down and testing around the monthly upper first standard deviation in the middle of an expansion, which is not unheard of. In fact, Bitcoin has done this just about every other bull run that it's ever had. So it's always tested the upper first. From here, could it do it? Probably not all in one shot, I'll tell you that, but maybe it could. That would look really bad on a lot of those timeframes below the monthly for sure. And we'd likely be in for a lot longer cycle than people think. Whereas as it stands right now, I do think that we are in for a quicker cycle. But the upper first is coming in around $48,000. And then we've got monthly supports is down there at 47,000 and 45.5 respectively. And we had already called this area out quite a long time ago when we were approaching it from the underside. So, you know, weekly says, you know, closes below the upper first at minimum. It's going to want to keep continuing to test this zone at the monthly closes. So 58.8 to 61.350. And then below there, yeah, it's 53 to 50K. I don't have too much more to say on that. I do know that there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. And I'm not giving you an opinion. I'm giving you conditions. So what I want you to understand is it's conditional. Like what we talked about for the move off of this particular structure up here when Bitcoin came back, made some higher highs and a wick higher high or a swing higher high than the last consolidation after spiking the $65,000 support area. You know, the condition was if it took out, you know, 67,500, 67,450, depending on your exchange, that's a big area. It's going to change structure. It's going to head down to 65 at minimum. And then from there, our next condition was if we see it break down from 65 and specifically close below these wick lows at 64,500, we're looking for this support zone. And as I mentioned in the last video, after testing the support zone, is that if it failed to get above $65,000 and put in a low structure on the daily, then it's going to most likely test down and then to watch this support around 61,350 and this wick low at 60,800. That was the recorded videos. Now, from there, I said it's going to likely test lower, deeper into this 58.8 to 61,350 level. That's what we're seeing now. So the next big condition is if we see it close below 60,800, you know for sure that's this wick, that's this wick. We're likely going to test down a bit further. And if we test down a bit further, we do see that there's another wick down here, you know, that was spiked off of the consolidation just prior to putting in the new all-time high there. And then we've got another area of local interest here just below $60,000 there at 59,200 into that monthly at 58.8. So, you know, there's a lot of areas and conditions within this zone, but realistically, I'm keeping a very close eye on 58.8. If it gets swung and then we see closes back in and it fails to break down, probably looking for the meme pullback, probably going to try and bounce at least pretty hard. And then we come back to it, see what it can recover, what areas to the upside it can recover, and kind of go from there. If it starts to close below there and on any consistent closures below 58.8, hits the meme pullback, but starts closing higher term timeframes down there, we're looking probably for a much further downside relative to where Bitcoin is trading right now, at least. A markdown of roughly, you know, $7,000 to $10,000 at 53 to that $50,000 level. So lower term timeframes we can take a look at. Pretty easy to read here. We've got 12-hour, which is it's not a lower term time frame, but I do want to note that it is getting into some bouncy area for Stochh RSI. That doesn't mean that it doesn't just go all the way. We have red DMI, we have strength of trend increasing. We've got the red dot of doom and death up there, which just means that DMI is red, which we can see down here. But basically, to turn this back up, Bitcoin's got to recover on the next 12-hour candle above 64,500. Now, I had mentioned we're going to see all this update at the end of today, so this is probably going to be somewhere around 64,000 to 63,800. The 12-hour is my favorite leading indicator leading into the actual daily. So I would keep a very close eye on this pivot, and if Bitcoin turns it, if it can put in a low on the 12-hour, watch out, because it's probably going to test up. So anywhere above 64,000, 63.8, which is the daily close open anyway, probably going to see that 12-hour shift. As it stands right now, for the current 12-hour, we saw expansion down. We're seeing the retest of the lower second standard deviation. I'm not liking this look. You know, I like my expansion to retest. I'm not liking this look as it stands right now. I want to see that lower second get a little bit further away from the actual closes before I really look at this as being ready for my expansion retest play that I've talked about so much. Now, lower term timeframes, that doesn't hold true. I've already taken some nice scalps off of this move down, both obviously to the downside on the short side, but I've also taken a very nice scalp and basically scalped it back to the daily high prior to, or well, it was about 62,500, 63,000 or something. And then started the stream. But all right, 12-hour, yeah, got that out of the way. Let's take a look at the 6 and 4 hour. So 6-hour is looking like, you know, we got the expansion to retest on a bit of compression. If this closes below the lower second, though, it's going to be 60,800. Go figure. It's a little bit lower, 60,700, but 60,800 is good enough. Probably going to test down into, you know, below 60K into the mid to low 50s, and then possibly that 58.8 monthly and quarterly. The 4-hour, we're looking at the same kind of thing. We saw expansion. We did not get my favorite setup to play here. This is just a messy setup. We've got expansion to expansion failures at the basis band all along here. So it's just maintaining a downtrend into support here. So if it can turn here, we need to see some bullish divergence forming. There might be, and I can take a look and check here in just a moment. But again, if it's closing back below the lower second, which is at 60,600, of course, it's meeting the criteria breaking below this most recent wick low, this wick low back here, then it's likely testing down to that monthly at $58,800 to $59,000 and under to the meme pullback targets. Be aware of closures below there. Higher term time frame. We see Stokes pointed down, closes above 61.5 to 6. We'll turn it back up. Currently trading below there, it seems. I didn't even look at price. Where's it trading? Yeah, it's trading below there. Nice little push down going on right now as we come into the final stretches of this 4-hour candle. The 6-hour closes above 61,500 would turn this back to the upside. It's all pressured down right now. So is there any time frame ready to bounce? Nope. Fresh down below 61.8 on the 3-hour. 2-hour, we are looking at probably the same. 2 hours got continuation down below 62,500. Hourly is like, hey, I want to try to go up 60,450, 60,500. Hourly still got upside momentum. This would look like a bearish reset if it starts closing back below there, especially because it would get continuation up and then flop over. That's your continuation drives a bearish divergence likely on the other side of that as well. Half hour getting to the mid zone and the 15-minute saying downside at the moment. Yeah, nice little bearish bounce. Higher low to higher high. If it does hold the basis here and get back above, however, this high here at around $62,000 on spot, you can look a little bit further up to like 62.2 to 62.5 61.5 or so, and then above there, keep an eye on $63,000, which is this high. Starts taking that out. We're looking back to this top side consolidation prior to the failure to get up to 65 there at 64,500 here. Looks good. Let's evaluate volume really quick. Let's see. Volume looks pretty good in this area. So this is not the highest volume we've seen down here, but we do want to see a nice volume, and we've kind of already seen the volume-based bounce off of this. So if it's going to remain bullish, yeah, so you want to see volume coming in around the basis. We are seeing that. It's got to put in a higher low here and then try to shift that structure. So if it does start trading back above 61,350, 61.5 or so on the lower term time frames, keep an eye on that upper second standard deviation around 62K. Probably mess around there, but as long as it's closing above $61,000 and then it can retest 62, then we'd be looking for a little bit further upside, but not too enamored with this at the moment. We'll have to see how it goes. I basically played the counter trend trade because I am in a short position. This is more of just take the other side of that as a hedge. And then I've already closed out of that, and I'll hunt another trade when I'm done with the stream. So let me go ahead and look at the chats here, see what everyone is chatting about. I see we've got a few new people in the chat here. I don't know if any of my regulars are actually here. I'm not going to do shitcoin analysis. I'm sorry, and I don't give advice on any coins. My apologies. I just define criteria for Bitcoin. Alts are going to follow Bitcoin versus their USD pairings, and typically lose on their BTC pairings on both the upside and downside moves for Bitcoin. This is we're not close to alt season yet, so I do apologize. I see Lord Crypto or Lord Crypt. I think it's supposed to be Crypto. I can't really read it from here, but I see. It's okay for mobile. Okay, yeah, the X stream. How you doing, Jedi? Spin, how you doing? Reneth, yeah. So I don't talk meme coins. I don't talk any of it. Like all your different shit coins, I can't give you advice on it. First of all, it's financial advice, and I don't give financial advice. And I don't have the time to chart any of those for you. All of it is garbage. And if you are in it, you need to be in it and out of it when, you got to be in it on the lows and out of it at the highs. And in general, it's going to be following Bitcoin versus the US dollar pairings, at least if you're using USD. But if you are counting on becoming a shitcoin millionaire, you got to learn to chart it. I don't really have time to chart the really low cap stuff. I'm not the guy for that. I'm a technical analyst. I'm not most of the people that you see online talking about that stuff are shilling it. They're shilling their bags, and I don't own any of it. I don't have anything to shill except Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin. It's the hardest money on earth. It's the hardest asset on earth. And I do apologize. Like, I'm not trying to not answer your question, but they will lose. What I will tell you is they're going to lose versus their Bitcoin pairing on both upside and downside moves on expansion for Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin gets a downside expansion move, you're losing against Bitcoin because Bitcoin's sucking up liquidity from the market on downside moves and upside moves. And that's your Bitcoin dominance. So if you want to go and you want to get a gauge for like, hey, this is going to either perform really well or not right now, doesn't mean over the longer term. Some of the things that you have could be incredible. We see the Bitcoin dominance actually took a fall today, which tells me that Bitcoin's probably going to bounce, but that's not for sure. That's not for sure at all. Bitcoin's testing down to the 60,500 levels. So again, It's one of those things that you got to chart your coin that you are looking at for first off trend, and then support and resistance if it does have historical support and resistance to reference. And then from there, you can chart, the volatility levels. Do they line up with support and resistance? Do they not? Are things in a compression like over here where Bitcoin's market dominance is compressed and then it gets expansion, which is a volatile move. So it starts closing above the volatility levels and then continues to close above the overhead resistance, and then now it's coming back for a retest. So realistically, honestly, the fact that Bitcoin is moving, Bitcoin dominance is moving down with such a large move down, we're at 4.66%, tells me that this isn't that I don't think this is necessarily the move just yet. Maybe we will see if it starts to break down from the monthly support, the low side monthly support at 58.8. Maybe if we see that, it will start to bounce on Bitcoin dominance, in which case it's going to take out alts hard, because the value buy would be at Bitcoin on the lows or break of structure. Coming into the halving, especially. So I know if you guys follow Caprioli Crypto or Charles Caprioli, you'll see that he's been posting a lot about what's coming up because there's the halving. In his most recent pre-halving analysis, he referenced his own indicator of his own design, which is the Bitcoin production cost. So I think it's just production cost, right? It should be in my favorites. Yeah, it is production cost. I think a few others are starting to reference it as well because Caprioli has done a great job of really creating charts and metrics that can map this stuff out. But basically, this is how roughly the range of how much it costs to produce a Bitcoin or mine a Bitcoin. So about $30,000 on the low end right now, to on the high end almost 50. So guess where we were looking, around $53,000 to $50,000, right? Could that happen? Absolutely. Now, one of the things is a lot of people are going, well, the cost is going to double on, the 20th. So in theory, the base cost to produce a Bitcoin or mine a Bitcoin is going to be around, we're going to basically be around $50,000 in the low end and up here somewhere around, $100,000. So this is going to turn red. Roughly, you're going to see this bottom part probably double, right? It's the basement price. If you want to listen to other guys call it the basement price, or the lowest cost that you could find in ideal situations would be around $30,000. That's going to come up to 60, right? So that's going to be right where Bitcoin's price is. So that would be your production cost, which does mean that anything below it is a value buy. It really is, because you're buying at less than it costs to produce, and that doesn't last very long. Just so you know. So we are entering the halving, understanding that this is more than likely going to be opportunity, because if Bitcoin, I can't give you financial advice. If I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you what I'm going to do if it goes below there is I'm going to be buying more, right? I'm going to be trading more under there on the long side of things. Been predominantly short for the past week and a half or so, it seems. I guess it's been a little less than that. It's been about a week that I've been predominantly short in the market. So if you're looking for deals, and there's some of you that really do need to understand this, I know from the mining side of things that with the halving coming up, that you do not want Bitcoin trading for very long underneath production costs, because it's still going to, regardless of fees spiking and all this other stuff. And yes, miners make money on fees every block. But let me tell you, you can't rely on that right now solely, especially when you have new mining hardware that's going to be more efficient that also needs to be purchased. You need that premium on Bitcoin so that when you are selling it, you can continue to increase efficiency of operations, which of course also supports the network in much better ways. So yeah. Do we have any questions? Now's your time to get them in, because I'm going to be wrapping this up and probably starting a spaces where I'm going to try to address some of the questions related to transacting on the Bitcoin network, even on the Biscuit network, on the Bitcoin network. I don't know what I was going to say, but when I fumbled the word, I just thought of biscuits. Let's go ahead and check on a few other things, though, before we go. Bitcoin got a nice little bounce off of the mid $60,000 region there at 60,500. Now back above 61. All right, so Bitcoin not in any kind of critical level here either. So take or buy sell ratio is kind of what you would expect on a downside move that is trending and getting expansion. We haven't seen any extremes. I define extremes as being below the 0.88, and currently it's at 0.95. And I define on the other side of that above about 1.10 to 1.15 on the take or buy sell ratio, where you have more longs in the market. Excuse me. So I'm not seeing anything that's like out of the norms here, and that's kind of with the look that I'm seeing on Bitcoin dominance, that's kind of what I expected on this chart. We're not seeing any extremes. Bitcoin dominance isn't spiking, which means that we're likely not seeing this red line into major areas of interest in terms of the order book. This is order book dependent. You're looking at basically a kind of the weighting in the order book, and it's not in any kind of an extreme area. Open interest is also just kind of hanging on to the lows. It's downtrending. And in general, I think that Bitcoin might have lost its opportunity for any kind of a bullish divergence on this too. Can we do the daily time frame now? I can't do shortcuts on this. I got to actually select it because the shortcuts are attached to the website there. Let's see. Depends on where it closes today, but yeah, it's losing its daily divergence. It also, it's still got a spot markup relative to OI, or relative to derivatives. We still have a bit of a spot markup even in this area, because last we traded around here and here on the lows. We're at roughly 17.4 billion, almost, we'll call it 17 billion to, I guess it's where it should be. We're at like an OI gap fill around 16 billion, but yeah, I guess we are right around where we should be in terms of open interest, and we're kind of hitting parity between open interest and spot price premium. Spot price is still carrying a premium, but it's not as diverged as I thought it would be in this, and it kind of lost whatever divergence opportunity it had. Let's go ahead and take a look at liquidations real quick here. Who is trying to really long this hard? Not many, that's why. So we already saw a liquidation event. It is trading right below, or swung below this wick low, but didn't break it, came right back in. Now it's threatening to try again, but see what happens. Funding isn't negative. No, not even. This is predicted funding. Funding only went negative really in two major areas. So this is kind of all business as usual for Bitcoin when testing the low. I love it. Cheaper Bitcoin right before the halving, possibly right after the halving. We'll take a look at it later this week. Is good, in my opinion. Not financial advice. Do your own research. Everything could go to zero. Doesn't mean I think it will, but everything could. So, open it up for questions one last time. We'll go down to the degen chart here for my degenerate friends in the chat. And let's see what you all are chatting about. Nothing. You guys aren't chatting about anything today? No one's got any questions? Most of you already know, yeah. Most already are very well aware, but want to hear it from me first. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Mempool fees got nice and low on the first real big move down. I'd like to see that again. That was a nice early morning, and then mempool fees went crazy as everybody's trying to get their degenerate inscriptions on chain to spam all of the miners. Filter crews getting big mad. All your spam. You guys are spammers. Yeah, I guess so. I'll be that. But hey, I'm also a miner, and I run nodes. So I'm okay with this. For now. Oh, but how is it ever going to become money? Oh, man. It's almost like people are transacting value on our network. Damn it. Anyway, if there is no other questions, I'm going to wrap this stream up. No musical outros today, though. We're just going to straight up wrap it up because I got some things to do. And I'll see if people do want to cross over and join into the stream or into the spaces where you can ask me questions. I'm going to do some follow-up from the last session. Maybe we'll do a Discord / spaces stream. No, because you're going to hear feedback if I do that. We'll figure something out. But yeah. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And above all, and more importantly, stay safe. All right? With all of that said, Landy out. I will talk to you in recorded format tomorrow. Take care.